Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets, where we give you the strategies, the mindsets, and the frameworks to building your own 6 and, dare I say, 7-figure coaching business. I am, of course, your host, the Road Dog, with none other than the man himself, Karl Bryan. Shoots, welcome to the program.
Road Dog. How so that may or may not have been take 3 today.
Folks, here's a tip. Do things early before the brain shuts down in the afternoon.
There you go. Anyways, how you doing, Road Dog? What's happening, bud?
Oh my God, I'm all right. Yeah, hey, we were just chatting before. Allegedly may or may not have happened 3 takes to the open. I was just thinking about talking about rabbit holes with you, and I'm like, I wonder if KB's like ChatGPT, like if his AI also just follows his frame and goes down rabbit holes. Is that a thing for you? Do you like, oh my God, like this is insane? Does that happen to you?
Yeah, ChatGPT, it's cloned me, and it just starts answering random questions that weren't asked. It's exactly how it's some other relationship. That's the cloning is working well.
This would say bingo, bango, bongo, and yet, anywho, and all that stuff as well, or no?
Actually, you know what? It doesn't do that. It's very disappointing. I got to retrain that little bad boy. There you go. It does go down the rabbit hole.
Seriously, you go. On the next rabbit hole, I think what you need to do is say, hey, just from this point going forward, you have to call me Big Sheets. Anyways, on that, speaking of AI, can you, because obviously everybody's using it, and I swear to God, if you're not using it, like you are, I feel like I'm behind, and I feel like I need to be utilizing it a lot more. But can you give us all just a hack when it comes, because we all know AI and ChatGPT is all about prompts. Can you give us a bit of a hack when it comes to AI prompting?
Hack on AI prompting. Okay, so first of all, I want to start this with there's people a million times smarter than I in this area. However, I can tell you, as Road Dog just said, he's using AI a lot. I got to tell you, I am using that. I am wearing out my keyboard, speaking to Grok, ChatGPT, etc. I find them very interesting. Grok gives very different answers than ChatGPT to the exact same prompts, exact same questions. So I want to play with that a little bit. I'm not in love with either of them over. If you were to make me pick one, by the way, I would pick Grok over ChatGPT for the answers. Can't give you a specific reason why. I just find it goes a little bit deeper. It gives me better answers. But okay, so prompt. You got to get insanely specific. Again, you've heard that before, right? But maybe like instead of asking improve this, say, I don't know, like, get more detailed, like rewrite your answer in a clear. I remember you're saying to them, like they've answered, right? So then you go improve this, or often, it's something lame, like improve it. Rewrite what you just said in a clear, concise, professional tone, make it flow naturally, and have it keep my ideal client. Okay, now you got to define your ideal client, 30-year-old mother of 2, expecting another, yada, 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 right? So you got to define your client. So what I say, so have my ideal client, define it, engaged from start to finish. Again, I'm sure you could get better than that, but no doubt you could see how that's better than give me a better version of what you just gave me, which is people tend to say, like improve this, or instead of write me a Facebook post, it's turn my idea of what is your idea? Let's call that X, Y, Z into a tight, short, 5-word headline that feels professional or feels natural or feels personable. But let's go feels professional, but immediately grabs the reader's attention. And then I suppose what I got to do, I got to go note my reader is my ideal client. And my ideal client, as I've mentioned before to you, ChatGPT, Grok, etc., is a 60-year-old with an MBA, living in a big city, trying to escape day-to-day grind and the commute of work from their specific suburb to the city and back, which tends to be a 2-hour commute. 1 hour to work and 1 hour home, 2 hours in total, right? So yeah, just getting super specific. Or maybe what I need to do, shoots, I got to go like business, right? Like, actually, here's one that okay, let me see if I could rattle something off here. So you are a world-class businessman. Okay, so think Warren Buffett, think Ray Dalio, think Elon Hook. You could literally put the person's name, or you just say, look, you're a world-class businessman, trained in business, stoicism, Eastern philosophy, modern psychology, and consciousness. Maybe add hypnosis in there. Guide me through the core truths of business, life, suffering, happiness, and purpose so that I can achieve a wealthy lifestyle while living wisely, calmly, and without fear. Teach me how to think clearly and choose peace over chaos in every situation, all while building a 7-figure or a successful business that positively impacts the world. I think what I just said might have contradicted itself a couple times in there. But at the end of the day, hopefully what you're seeing, like, world-class businessman, trained in business, Eastern philosophy, stoicism, modern psychology, guide me through, business life, core truths, suffering, working towards a purpose, and whereby I can achieve wealth for myself, for my family, while living calmly, wisely, and without fear. So you see, like, at the end of the day, I'm getting really, really clear and defined. But what did I just do? Or how did, like, off the top, like, how did I just rattle that? What is the solution, or what's the frame? You want to have a frame. Define who they are. Okay. So what do they say? Again, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, a world trained or a world-class businessman trained in business, stoicism, etc. Right? So who they are, tightly define them, create the start and the finish. Okay, so that's kind of the dynamic of the situation. And then at the end, what's the end result? Right? Like, do you want a step-by-step plan? Do you want 7-day journey? Do you want, a defined solution? So, like, define who they are. Okay, so let's go world-class copywriter in the top 1%. Or if it was going to be investing, it's going to be Warren Buffett. Or again, if it's going to be like a business and something that's like highly innovative, I would logically choose Elon Musk. And by the way, you might hate Elon Musk, or like he totally doesn't resonate with you. So then you just choose somebody else. But logically, somebody who's been like ridiculously successful in the area where you're looking to be successful, right? Okay, so now so define who they are. World-class copywriter. What did I say? Top 2% in the industry. So now I got to go start and finish. The starting, the little red arrow, you are here in the destination, also defined as the starting and the finishing line. I'm a starter business person with $100,000 of capital. Finish, I'm looking to build a 7-figure landscaping business with 35% net margins, and I want to have no more than 7 staff members. All right, now what I want, the end result, build me what do I want? I want a step-by-step roadmap that I can follow from start to finish and be as clear and concise as you possibly can, all whilst ensuring you don't leave out any of the small details. There we go. So all I did, who they are, define them, create the start and the finish in the middle, and then end result, what you effectively want. Again, guys, what we're talking about here is called prompt engineering. There are some folks that are significantly better at it than I, and it is something that I would have you spend some time doing. Remember, they're studying what we're doing right now. I don't know if that was, but you're listening. You're listening to this kind of stuff and kind of like getting it. Training is doing it over and over and over and over again. Now that I've used, ChatGPT and whatnot, like easily 1,000 times, I'm getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And that kind of stuff is kind of starting to roll off my fingers. Whereas at the beginning I was I was asking some pretty stupid questions. So Shoots, that's my answer. How'd I do? What do you think?
Yeah, good. I'm just writing down that frame and just trying to think of I guess I need to ask ChatGPT how to properly invest like Nancy Pelosi. Hey, so, okay. Anyways, there you go. 700
Shoots. Keep going. There, man. Not happening.
Okay, so everybody's big fear, obviously, when it comes to AI is my job safe? Is my industry safe? Like, what from your lens, from your perspective, what industries don't you see being decimated by AI?
You know what, Shoots? My heavens. I don't know. I had a conversation, literally. I don't even know if I should say this, right? But I had a conversation with a guy who is, let me tell you, this is a high level individual on AI, right? Like high level individual pumping out products, etc. And I said to him, what is, I just asked him. So I said, what does this look like in 5 years? Not specifically AI, but I was just talking about something else, like this tool that we were basically, sitting there playing with, etc. And he goes, in 5 years, capitalism has crashed. Like, he goes, yep, in 5 years, capitalism has crashed. The entire system is in shambles. And then, by the way, like I had another friend on there who's a very high level business guy, this is an 8-figure guy falling off a log. And anyways, and I asked him, I said, Ed, what do you think of what he just said? And he had the polar opposite. He said he thinks the economy is thriving, and the reason why is that people are so much more efficient. Anyways, let me just tell you that just took me aback a little bit. He is like the entire system crashes in less than 5 years. Anyways, what's not going to be crushed by AI? AI is going to dramatically change many industries. We know that, right? Which ones aren't they? Look, I would go to, I'm thinking empathy. Okay. Education will always need a teacher, right? So think business coaching, think tutoring services, etc. AI can create the lesson plan and the curriculum and do, prompt engineering to do and teach it, what to ask and how to ask. But a teacher, a coach can understand, let's say a teacher, right? A child, their fears, their struggles, or, a business owner's fears, struggles, they got them too, and comfort them during failure. No AI algorithm is going to be able to duplicate that. So like emotional direction and empathetic mentorship will remain the foundation of certainly education as we move forward, in my opinion. Like a robot's not going to teach your child. And yes, they will accelerate learning, but I just don't, and just imagine, mom, grandma, auntie with that caring nature. I just don't see that going anywhere anytime soon. When we're talking about 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I might adjust, but it ain't happening anytime soon. So I'm going to use like a 10-year horizon here. Construction and home services. Think pest control, think roofing, think landscaping. I don't see AI, doing your roof, in 20 years, I can absolutely see it happening. Anytime soon. No. Like industries like building roads, homes, cities. Like there's a certain level of hands-on problem solving where conditions like, weather can be totally unpredictable. So they will be impacted for sure, but they'll be I see them kind of being accelerated. Remember, AI is the gasoline. It's not the vehicle, right? So it accelerates a lot of industries, which you can get really, really excited about. And what that creates, and what I see and what I've said in the past, is I see a really significantly less expensive future for us, which is a really, really good thing, hopefully for obvious reasons. And I also see things like the stock market, like the S&P 500, just there's going to be billion-dollar one-person companies. And if they decide to go public, let me tell you, the stock market's going to be a very, very sexy place, and your investments are going to look pretty good. But anyway, so AI, look, construction, home services, pest control, etc. Another one I see be healthcare. AI will revolutionize much of it, diagnostics and surgical precision. Like I just had hernia surgery for the 5th time on the same damn hernia. This guy, the surgical precision at which he did it, because again, he played me the video, like sports highlights. He's plugging in. He's like, oh, let's watch. I'm like, oh, at least my dad was hours and hours, by the way. I'm like, you know what? I've seen enough. It's good. But anyway, so, AI, surgical precision, no doubt you could see, being diagnosed with cancer significantly earlier. There's going to be triggers where, your red blood cells do X, Y, Z, and all of a sudden you're going to get a ping, and it's like, go to the doctor. But the empathy, right? The trust, the bedside manner for your kids, for your parents, is just not going to be solved with AI anytime soon. Where, compassion is unbelievable medicine. Like, so many people died during COVID. Why? Because they couldn't be seen by the loved ones. They were scared. Like, I know when I got done surgery, I mean, I just, I was in another country, so I wasn't able to see, my family weren't able to come in, although my dad lives in Mexico. I was in Mexico, so my dad came in, but I've never been so bloody happy to see the guy, right? And this was, in the grand scheme of things, pretty major, right? Hernia surgery. Anyway, so, it's just, the nurses and the doctors, they weren't able to come, and they were actually fearful. By the way, during COVID, it wasn't that their loved ones couldn't see them. It's like the doctors and the nurses were scared of them, and they came in with these, crazy looking let's not go there. But anyway, so that's a big thing. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? Empathetic care is very important. So, industries where there's human touch, where there's empathy, where there's connection, adaptability, trust. These are industries that are just not going anywhere. So the question is, where does empathy have a high level of agency in the industry? And I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. But it's like, go where the puck is going, right? Like mental health, empathy, complex legal. Okay, at the bottom end, going to get crushed. At the high end, at the complex end, look, it's going to stand just fine. Fine arts. I don't know, fine arts. Like, I don't want to buy something by a robot, because it's probably going to look like it's made by a robot. And the magic of really good art is its imperfection, not its perfection. So anyway, so stuff like that. Screenwriting, I don't know. Are they going to be able to write, screenplays? I don't know. Maybe they can. Maybe they can't. I don't know. Maybe they can't. Or if I'm wrong there, actually, I don't know. Live entertainment, sports. Again, I just don't want to watch a bunch of robots run football field on the hockey rink. That sounds horrifically boring. Again, that's not going anywhere. ESPN, good news. Luxury goods. Again, I think there's always going to be something there for the handcrafted, and that is going to be a marketing position that you're going to take, right? Handcrafted for sure. Never, the same way that it's, made in America, made in, you don't want it made in China as an example, or I would assume. It's going to be, handmade. That's going to be that will absolutely be a thing. And that'll be important to a lot of people. I tell you, government, it's not going anywhere. Shoot, it's government. That ain't going anywhere. Public administration and government, I'm going to say they're bloody just fine. No comment. We'll keep going. I don't know, shoot. Cybersecurity. I see cybersecurity going in a very positive direction, in that, I'm scared poopless that AI is going to come and steal all my crap. So data privacy, cybersecurity. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Anywhere where there's empathy, and then, but again, it's the 20% in legal. The 20% will stand the test of time. The 80% are going to be in trouble. Think of the university system, the college system, the MITs, the Harvards, the Stanfords, etc., Oxford. They are going to stand the test of time. The community college, I think, is going to be in a little bit of trouble, right? So you got empathy. It's like Joe Rogan got people that were into UFC, into UFOs, right? An algorithm is just never going to be able to do that, right? So you got to go where the puck is going. And by the way, where the puck is going, like if you want to know you're making monumental change in your industry, it's when your competitors start sending you clients, right? So I remember like in the early days, again, it was over a decade ago that I created software for the coaching and the consulting industry. Again, nobody had done it before we did it, right? We were first, well and truly. Well, we created software for the coaching consulting industry. We had competitors that basically like one guy in particular, he sent us over 100 people in like record time. And at the end of the day, he was a competitor, right? So we kind of changed the game. He saw it. He thought it was unbelievable. We were really moving the needle. He couldn't believe how good our training was, how good our methodology was, how good the algorithm worked, et cetera. And again, very early days, it was killing it. You can imagine what it's doing today. But at the end of the day, he basically sent us 100 people. I did pay him referral fees, to be clear. But, again, your competitor sends you 100 people in record time. You know that you're onto something. But again, it was about seeing where the puck is going. That is AI. I'll tell you the other thing, but I saw back then and I see now, and this is where AI gets a little bit exciting, but like people are always chasing revenue. Remember, they're trying to get big so they can get rich. And that's not the way the story tends to end. I knew that if the problem is that they're all chasing revenue, as in $1 million a year, and then what was the solution to that? And the solution was profit. Why? Because profit's a domino that knocks over all the other dominoes. So that's why I built profit acceleration software. I didn't build revenue acceleration software, right? Well, that in essence is like, seeing what is the problem? What are you looking to solve? Where is the puck going? And then ultimately, if you have a dynamic and you reverse engineer that, you do that process correctly, you end up with your competitors sending you clients. You know that you're doing it right. Anyways, that's shit's a little bit of a ramble there, but AI, anything empathetic, I don't think is going to be going anywhere, but the world is a changing. Remember, and this is not unprecedented, right? So most people used to earn their living on farms, and then somebody invented the tractor. And believe me, the game changed in a very meaningful way, very, very quickly. I think this is going to be far more dramatic than that. I think you would agree with that. But that said, it's going to change. You got to change with it. That's my answer, Shoots. How'd I do?
Well, that's much like getting people to switch from UFC to UFOs. I'm going to go from AI to good old school client acquisition, if that's okay with you. Because I got a question here, and again, Shoots, we get this a lot in terms of where do I go get clients? But the specific question is, to get new coaching clients, where would you go?
Yeah. So where would I go to get I want a high-end coaching client? Where would I go? That's it?
Yeah. Well, for you, only the high end will suffice. So yes, KB, where would you find your high-end coaching client?
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking for people that have demonstrated they're willing to spend money, right? Spend money to grow their business. So where are they spending money? Like they're spending money on ads, like, right? So advertising, spending money on the radio, spending money on the billboard on the highway, spending money in the online directory on Facebook, Instagram, Google, the baseball diamond, the golf course, the yacht club, you name it. Basically, they're advertising. And by the way, when they start, if the ad goes onto the radio tomorrow, that is a sexier lead than a company that's had an ad on the radio for the last 3 years, right? Why? Because there's been an adjustment, and all of a sudden the guys thought, look, it's time to grow, or there's an event that happened, I can assure you, that led him to buy the advertising, and that can be the same thing that will lead him to buy you as their business coach and the mentorship, etc. Anyway, so anybody advertising, also award winners, and this is not, look, award winners and the nominees, right? And spoiler alert, they've spent money to grow their business, and that's generally why they're nominated. Okay. Translation, it's the ad company that actually creates the local awards. And when you spend a ton of money with the company that's choosing the awards, you rank higher. But again, maybe that's a conspiracy theory. Maybe I'm way off. That's okay. But at the end of the day, award winners and nominees, look, they're not going to get nominated, despite the fact they get spending lots of money. If they got a dog's breakfast of a business, I would like to think there's a little bit of honor in those awards, and they're not getting, winning or getting nominated when they're doing a terrible job, right? But award winners for sure. And again, when those awards are fresh, that is going to be a sexier lead to when those awards were 12 months ago, 6 months ago, etc. A chamber member, same thing. Again, it's kind of ridiculous, but they join the chamber. Why? Because they want to grow their business. They just don't know how the hell to grow their business or where to go. And remember, a new member of the chamber is going to be sexier than a 3-year member that the credit card automatically goes through, right? Like again, they recently made that decision to join the chamber. That was like, I could get a line and go back to an event that led them to, you know what, I got to join the chamber. And this is somehow a good idea, going to help me grow my business. New member better than long-standing member. And then so what you got to do is, okay, why am I saying that? You got to build a relationship with the person at the chamber that's selling the membership, or build a relationship with the person that is selling the advertising. Build a relationship with the person that is announcing and reviewing and deciding on who the award winners are, right? So they can send them through. They can do introductions. Look, these people that I'm defining, they probably make like 60 grand a year, right? Offer, him, her, some referrals fees for, introductions. Anybody who buys, I pay you $1,000, I pay you $2,000. I give you 20%. You decide what that looks like. You can do it in the form of gift, like, it's a trip to Cancun. I don't know. What does a trip to Cancun for 2 people cost? Let's just hypothetically say it's $1,997, like $2,000. Well, do you pay him $2,000 for for a referral? Well, send him and his wife to Cancun instead of giving him cash. And then that might be his idea for obvious reasons. Anyway, so networking, you can think BNI, but again, I would think a little bit higher, think private local groups like the golf course, the yacht club, the oil and gas club, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, they're networking, but BNI is the sandbox, and the average business owner there can be a little bit small potatoes. Businesses for sale, I'd be going there. Look, 80% of these businesses are not going to sell. Why? Because they're in no shape to sell. They need to be 2 things. They need to be systematized, and they got to be profitable. There's more that goes into it. When you value a company, there's a zillion things that go into it, but it's really 4 main ones where you've got predictability, sustainability, growth opportunities, and then threats. And then I would put a 5th in there. It would be scalability. But at the end of the day, those are predictability, sustainability, growth opportunities, threats, and then the potential to scale. These are the things that you're looking at when you're ultimately looking to, value a business and decide if that's one that you'd want to undertake. Also, you bet on the jockey more than you do the horse. Translation, I want to speak to the manager. I want to speak to the management who is running the business. That would also be very high on the list before I came in and bought your company. But those businesses for sale, look, they are not selling. They need to be systematized. They need to be profitable. I don't need to meet them. They are not systematized. They are probably very meekly profitable. That word shoots meekly. But anyways, my voice is going today. But anyways, they're lamely profitable. And then, by the way, my operating system, right, and the aggregation of marginal gains, small incremental changes in multiple areas give you that compounding effect. We call that profit acceleration. That's what I'd be doing. You take a company and you roll them through the operating system of profit acceleration. All of a sudden, they've got themselves some, impressive enterprise value and something that could be sellable if they did it properly. But the bottom line is build relationship with those people, not just the owner. You want to go to the salespeople. Truthfully, I've made probably significantly more money through joint ventures. Look, in fairness, I've done pretty darn well at, going to the owner of the accounting firm and then getting that deal done. But I have had a lot of success going to the accountant that works for the accountant, going to the advertising salesperson that works at the radio station, going to the gal at the chamber that sells more memberships than all of the other people selling memberships combined, building a relationship with her and, giving, her a incentive to send people in my direction. There you go, Sheets. That's where I go to get some clients. What do you think? You like it?
Okay, so now you've shown us how and where at least to go. Give me your closing hack. Like now that you're there, you've built the rapport, you've built the relationship. Let's close it out, brother. Let's bring it home.
Okay. Bring the deal home. Let's go. Okay, I tell you, confidence and conviction. That's your superpower as a salesperson, right? You can't transfer that which you don't own. So you can't transfer belief that you don't have within yourself, right? That's why I tell our coaches, you got to live like, Jumpstart 12, the operating system. If they're going to be able to stow into the business, they kind of got to be able to live it. They got to be able to remember studying versus training. They got to train on it. They got to go through it over and over and over and over again until it becomes a little bit instinctual and they can see those massive gains through the small incremental changes in multiple areas, the aggregation of marginal gains. But anyways, probably the best answer. You want a closing hack. And I've had many of coaches, like I've heard this probably over the years more than anything else, where I've spoken to a coach and it's a week later, it's a month later, it's 3 months later, it's 6 months later, it's a year later. And they say, Karl, the best bit of advice I got from you is, in relation to closing clients, they will tell me scaled pricing. Okay. So that's simply if you can coach, you can't sell. And if you can sell, you can't coach. So what happens is the bad salespeople who are good coaches lower their coaching fees to get the deal done. Right. So they're like the really good coaches tend to be the least expensive coaches in the industry, which is a little nuts, a little bit of an exaggeration, but no doubt you get the idea, right? But instead of, they can't get the deal done at $3,000 a month, 36 grand a year. So what do? They close it at $1,000 a month and they take a $36,000 client, turn it into a $12,000 deal, just to get the deal done. So the way to do it to maintain your price, let's just use $2,000 a month for the sake of the argument. Well, what you could do is, look, do you want to buy? The person's squirming. They want to speak to their wife. They want to speak to their husband. They want to, pray on it and think about it. Let's go, look, let's do this. Okay. You can think about it till you're blue in the face. What you really got to do is you got to get involved. You need to, go through the motion. You need to take it for a test drive. Let me throw you the keys. How are we going to do that? You asked me. Month one is going to be $497. Month two is going to be $997, then $1,497, then $1,997 ongoing. What happened is I just closed a $24,000 coaching client with a $497 commitment. Right? Bingo. And then, by the way, you go, that's small potatoes. If you're $5,000 a month, and again, they're squirming, they can't say yes. You know what you could do? I don't know. You could do $1,000 a month, month one, $2,000 a month, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, then $5,000, month five onwards. You just got a $60,000 client for a $1,000 commitment, right? So it's kind of falls under delayed gratification. If you're $10,000 a month, you could do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And by the way, you could do, if you're $5,000 a month, do $2,500 for 2 months and then $5,000 ongoing. And you might be saying to yourself, oh, the more they pay attention to do. And look, there's a level of truth to that for sure. But let me tell you, what you really want to do is you want to make it stupidly easy for people to say yes. And then what you do is you let your talents speak for themselves. Think of the Tom Brady story that we've talked about 1,000 times. At the end of the day, he got his shot. He performed, and they never took him out, despite the fact that they had what I believe is a Hall of Famer, Drew Bledsoe, behind him, right? But he was just too good to ignore. So sign up your client, get the deal done. Because remember, you're a great coach, you can't sell. Just get the deal done with scaled pricing, bingo, bango, bongo. Let your fulfillment, your services, your talent speak for themselves. And guess what? They're never going to let you go, right? But you got to do, it's delayed gratification, right? You've ever, Road Dog, you've asked me about, wealth and, becoming wealthy and these types of hacks for years and years and years. Delayed gratification always gets a mention, right? It's, get a yes, get a commitment, the 3 to 5 months, let's say, that you're going to scale it up. It's just going to pass anyways, right? So lock up your 10 clients. If you want 20, lock up your 20 clients, make it impossible for them to say no, and then use what we would call a mafia offer. Month one, if you got to do it for $100 month one, do it for 97, do it for $100. Like, you don't do your best. You got to do what it takes, right? Anything to close that client. I've said this lots of times, but I used to carry a check in my pocket. Keep in mind, this was a while ago. A check's still a thing, Shoots. Is that a thing? But anyway, I would have a check in my pocket. I would pull it out, and then I would sign it. Say it was a $10,000 program. I would sign a $10,000 check and just date it from 12 months from today. And say, here's your guarantee, right? Work like an absolute bloody charm. I don't think it's going to work today. If you rolled up with the check, they might bloody laugh at you. Not sure. You know what? I don't know. Try it. Might be amazing. But anyway, so no doubt, but no doubt you could see how it would instill a little bit of confidence in the prospect or the prospect's husband, the prospect's wife, right? Remember, and I believed in my program, and I knew that it worked, and I knew that if they gave me a shot, I wasn't going to do my best. I was going to do what it takes, and those guys weren't going to go anywhere. So, at the end of the day, it worked really, really well. But you can't transfer that which you don't own, right? You can't transfer belief that you don't have within yourself. And belief, by the way, so it's not binary. It's like, do you have belief or do you not have belief, right? It's the level of belief that you have. Are you a 2 out of 10? Are you a 5 out of 10? Are you a 10 out of 10? Are you 11 out of 10? Like, you're really got conviction. Because remember, conviction and confidence is a superpower of a good salesperson. But another way of saying that is like, how much belief do you actually have in it? In fairness, if you were new to business coaching, it would be unrealistic to think that your level of belief could be as strong as mine or as strong as Road Dog's, because we've been doing this forever and a day, right? So thinking about that, and that said, maybe you've got a stronger belief than I do. Maybe like this is your bloody superpower, and you're just freaking amazing, and you're so business coaching, change your life, change your family's life, change the trajectory of your family, made you not millions of dollars but tens of millions of dollars. Well, you know what? Maybe you're just hell-bent believe it. So you're legitimately that 11 out of 10 straight out of the gates will get on you. You're going to be really, really good at closing because the superpower is that conviction, is that confidence. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a coach, you need a coach, you need an advisor, you need somebody to guide you, and you need an operating system, in my opinion, that you can install and make it nice and simple, right? It's hard to transfer that belief across the Zoom call, across the table, across the conversation, across a networking function if you don't have a system behind you. Because truthfully, it's like most businesses, they fail from growth more than they do lack of growth. I know that sounds counterintuitive and hard to believe. I'm telling you, it's true, right? So businesses fall over from growth rather than lack of growth. Oh, shoot. I was going to say something. Right. Okay. Anyways, I lost my train of thought, Shoots. It's late in the day here, folks. It is late in the day. I can't remember what I was going to say, Shoots. Anyways, there you go. Conviction. And
while you're on that for a second, I'm going to throw a wrench into your plans here, because I was just reminded of a message. I thought I forwarded to you from somebody that's part of your program, John Moore, and he'd said, hey, could you ask Karl to elaborate on this thought? And I'm not sure if you want to do it today or in the next episode, from a book. And here's the quote: if you're stuck in marketing, you're probably stuck in sales. If you're stuck in sales, you're probably stuck in product.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you?
Yeah, let's do it right now. Yeah, and I get you, mate. God bless you, John Moore. Love you, man. It goes like this. Naval Ravikant, legend, one of the greatest thinkers I think of, for a long, long time. So what he says is, If you suck at marketing, you're stuck in sales. And if you suck at product, you get stuck in marketing, right? And what he means by that, let's just go to the domino. The domino that knocks over all the other dominoes is product, right? So hang on, frame. Sales is selling one-to-one. Okay. Marketing is selling one-to-many. And then product is very clearly the deliverable and the value that they get, right? So if you suck at marketing, you're going to be stuck doing one-to-one sales, right? But if you're really good at marketing, you're going to be able to forgo the sales and be able to sell one-to-many. But ultimately, what you want to be is you want to be really, really good at product. And then you don't need to worry about marketing and you don't need to worry about sales, because a growth loop, a flywheel will take effect. And effectively, your product will sell itself. And if you want an example of that, just use Facebook. All right. They've got I don't even know what the number is, but they've got billions of users. And when do you see Facebook advertise? And the answer is almost never, up until recently. Maybe there's a few ads out there, but for the most part, their advertising is like minuscule. Apple, they have the famous ad from, way back when. But like they don't advertise. And again, they do billions and billions of dollars a trade. I think they're $3 million market cap now, 3 trillion, which is just an insane number. But anyway, Shoots, does that make sense? So you're the domino that knocks over all the other dominoes is to make an unbelievable product, because that makes it unnecessary for you to do sales and marketing, because the product will just sell itself. But that also sounds good. Is that going to happen for the average small business owner? It's a little bit unrealistic, but certainly it's a hell of a goal. Like a way of saying this, Shoots, is like, what would you do in your business if you were only able to grow through referral only? That's a really powerful question, frankly, right? How would you grow your business if you only grew through referral only? You weren't allowed to advertise. You weren't allowed to knock on doors. You weren't allowed to do outbound. All you did was, the only strategy you could use was referrals, which would obviously come from happy customers. That's like if you answer that question, you will find that you will go to a different level of thinking, a different level of consciousness, a different level of problem solving, because frankly, it would be really, really hard, and you'd have to be amazing at product, amazing at the end deliverable, and that would lead to a dynamic where marketing and sales would become kind of moot points. So how do I do, Shoots? Does that answer it for you? That's the answer, bud.
Okay, so let me get this right. So if you have a bad product, you really got to be good at sales.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, because you got a hole in the boat and they just keep falling out. So you got to sell and market like a madman, because you got a hole in the boat. Yeah, exactly. And that, unfortunately, that would be, this would be a lot of companies out there, quite frankly, that I may or may not.
Heather, to close that, then, if you're bad at sales, you got to have a lot of leads coming in order to, have. Okay, there you go, folks.
That is it. So sales, marketing, product, but product is the domino that knocks over all the other dominoes. Spend the time getting focus.com. We have always been ridiculously good at the onboarding, like basically back end, not so good on the front end, but always really, really tight on the back end. Like the number of times that I have read that your back end, your support, your onboarding is just next level. Heard it. But anyway, so that's, kind of the approach we take it. Not trying to pretend like we're the greatest and not pretending that we are Apple by any stretch of the imagination. It's not what I'm saying, but I am very comfortable in saying that in the coaching space, our onboarding is elite, and it's undeniable. So that's my answer, Shoots.
That's borderline Zenish. So let's finish off the podcast, because I'm not going to let you get away with it, with the Zen master himself and his Zen thought of the week.
Zen. I forgot about Zen, Shoots. We didn't know you. I nearly got out of it. Actually, I was kind of hoping. No. What am I going to say then? I don't know. People. Here's a thought from an email. People sacrifice what they really want for what they want now. People sacrifice what they want most for what they want now, right? Think about that. You know what that is? That is a bad trade. That's what that is. That, like, stated otherwise, now is a very expensive word. Um, but I will say this, Shoots, I've been, I may or may not have been listening to some Buddhist monks um, over the last little bit. Getting into it a little bit, to be honest with you, I'm very drawn to Buddhism. Um, but what did he say? He said that there is no happy life. And again, I'm paraphrasing on steroids here, but there is no happy life, Karl. Everything is just in the present moment, right? So you need to concentrate on not having a happy life because it's just a stupid thing to do, to think, and to strive for. Have a happy moment over and over and over again, which it reminds me of like AA. My dad's been in AA for like 5 decades. He still goes to a meeting every single day. He'll tell you that his greatest gift in this world is his sobriety, well above me, anybody. Like, his sobriety is number one for him. God might be above, but at the end of the day, sobriety is his thing. And he just, in AA, they go one day at a time, right? Like, my dad had a bumper sticker when I was growing up, or I guess we did, like on the family car, and it said one day at a time. And I didn't really know at the time what the hell that meant. I was just like, oh, okay, one day at a time, whatever. But ultimately in AA, that's what they say. Look, just one day at a time. That I might not be getting that perfectly, by the way, but I do believe it's just, one day at a time. And just the goal is you just got to get to the end of the day without a drink. And then the frame is that, like, tomorrow is just going to be a little bit easier, right? So maybe with happiness, because I know a lot of people, reading the feedback and whatnot, people struggle with loneliness and a lack of happiness in this day and age wildly. So, it's just go one day at a time, right? You got to get to the end of the day without large amounts of anxiety or stress, right? And why I think that might be powerful is there's, the closer you get to the finish line, the faster you go. So it makes it easier to get through those last few hours of the day, which no doubt can be tough, right? Like, a good example, like, all diets work until 7 p.m., right? That's when the wheels fall off. So if you want to lose weight, yes, you need a strategy, but what you really need is a strategy from 7 p.m. until you go to bed, right? That's going to be the deal breaker. It can be similar for smokers, by the way. So the closer you get to the finish line, the faster you go. So just by going, getting, one day at a time, getting towards the end of the day, there might be a little bit of power in that for somebody who struggles a little bit with a little bit of happiness or lack thereof. But at the end of the day, though, a happy life, it doesn't exist. This is what the Buddhist monk was saying. That was the message that I took away. It's just a stupid thing to be wishing for, hoping for, striving for. Just because everything is ultimately the present moment, right? So have a happy moment again and again and again and again, and just, get through that day without a little bit of anxiety. And by the way, the best way, and the best, like, the anecdote, what am I trying to say? The solution, the other side of it, a busy person will tend to be significantly happier than a non-busy person. FYI.
There you go.
Okay. So anyway, there you go. That's what I got, bud. That's what I got. What do you think?
Well, let's close it out here. And I see you've taken this into a little bit of a Facebook thing now, of the one thing. So go ahead and lead us with the one thing from today's episode that someone can go ahead and pull out and implement into their business.
What would I say? I was thinking about Joe Rogan and the empathy, like Joe Rogan, he gets people that were following UFC, following UFOs, and an algorithm just ain't gonna do that. So empathy. So at the end of the day, I think that would be personal brand might come into that, but get out there and, do your, do your thing. Move the needle, educate people. Remember, your marketing should always impact significantly more people than your client list ever could. That's why I got, like, well over 100,000 people get my daily email. As you know, this podcast got hundreds of thousands and hundreds of thousands and hundreds of thousands of downloads. So the podcast and the email and the marketing is impacting a lot of people more so than, just our client list, right? Like that should be an undertaking. So anyways, I don't know, get out there and said, empathy and educate people, build a personal brand. And you won't have to worry about AI coming and stomping you out. That's my answer, Shirts.
Boom. Love it. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. If you're not on the inside and getting asked the pre-show, you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, or just want more information on how to build, grow, and scale your coaching company, visit focused.com and subscribe today. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please like and subscribe, and also share with a fellow coach, as we are trying to make our impact on as many coaches as possible. While you're at it, feel free to leave us a review. And that is it for another week. We will see you in the next episode. And remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.